Good morning.
Good morning.
We are Daily Dose. Happy Monday morning. It's
Good
nice to
morning.
see you. We are trying a little bit of a different format going forward, so we're not going to play 20 seconds of music, hoping that people have the time to get on. We're just going to get started because we know that people's time is valuable. So here we go. Today we are talking about Limitless. We started it last Monday. We talked about the first C, which is calling. Today we're going to talk about the second C, but I'm just going to give you a quick little back context to set the context. Becoming Limitless. This is a book by Laura Gassner-Otting. Simply defined, consonance is when what you do matches who you are or want to be. You achieve consonance when your work has purpose and meaning for you. Consonance is the sense of frictionless belonging, of momentous stride, of core relevance. It's a guiding force that reveals how your work, whatever that may be, contributes to your overall life's plan. And you might remember that last week we talked about this idea that this isn't about quitting your job or going off and doing some huge grand thing. This is about finding where your passion intersects with the work that you're already doing and how to make it a little bit more seamless. So last week's 4 element was calling, and I'll put a link to last week's conversation in the comment box. And this week's C is connection. So connection gives you sight lines into how your everyday work serves your calling by solving the problem at hand, growing the company's bottom line, or reaching that goal. And I think I told you last week that this book is challenging. Often business books are pretty simplistic. They're written to be read on a red eye and to sort of have snappy takeaways. This book's got snappy takeaways, but they require you to think. And I talked to Laura last week, and she told me that actually she simplified this book a bit from its original draft. So I'd be really curious to have seen that. But the comment that I made on my little note was, can't make sense of connection. It's not that I don't understand it, it's that I can't make it
You can't connect
work.
to it. There you go.
So I asked Dr. Mary to read the chapter and lead the conversation. So here we go, Dr. Mary.
Thank you.
You're
I mean,
welcome.
it is a business book. So I read, to be honest with you, I read the chapter 5, I think it is. Actually, I read it twice. I won't deny it. Because it's written for business, but it starts off really explaining what a connection is. I mean, what it is. Obviously, it says connect to work, but it's not specifically for business. It's whatever job you could do. You could be running you could run a non-profit. You could be working for a non-profit.
You could be retired.
You could be retired.
Stay-at-home parent.
You could
Absolutely.
be a stay-at-home parent. You could be working part-time. You could
Anything.
be self-employed. I mean, anything.
Yep.
It's how best to connect to your job. I mean, I think one of the biggest problems now, and if you want to make all these little connections, because everything is joined by threads, especially now, how is our job affecting other people? A lot of people wake up and go, oh, would people even notice if I don't go to work? And I read something on the BBC website about what has COVID-19 done to us. I read that yesterday, and it was one of the things is people are less connected because they're working from home. A lot of people say, well, I'm more productive, but I haven't talked to anyone. My sister got a new job during COVID, and she's doing great at it. She had a 6-month review, and they said, oh, you're brilliant. And she's never met a single person she works with. She's working from home.
Yeah.
So, one of the great quotes on the chapter was, we could end up being slaves to the tyranny of uncertainty. You're sitting there doing your job and you think, what is my job? What am I doing? Now, I actually felt like that, and we talked about this in a weird way when I was in rehab. Where are you going? What's your next step? What do you want this part of your life to be? You have to connect to something. And in fact, if you're trying to live with an addiction and live with it successfully, you actually have to do is reconnect. And that's what I got out of this. This was all how to connect in the first place, but what I learned was how to reconnect, and hopefully we can talk about them both. One of the great examples she talked about was is your work leading to the right long-term goal? During Sandy Hook and during Hurricane Sandy, what a lot of people did, and it started with Sandy Hook, they sent teddy bears, made them feel good. But the author made a point, you know, you all see the newspaper or the news reports of a few of these teddy bears in the hands of children, and you think, that's brilliant, but, you know, where did the rest of them go?
Yeah, how many did she say got sent?
Thousands.
Like 17,000 teddy bears
And then there
got
was
sent
more
to
during
Connecticut.
the hurricane. And they all ended up in recycle bins or something. But the idea of that with Sandy Hook was a better use of everyone's time would have been, let's make more common sense gun control than sending everyone a teddy bear. If you put that amount of effort into something, you could have done a better change for everyone. And that's the connection. So she also, oh sorry, were you going to say
No, go ahead.
Basically, the bottom line of that was anyone's action doesn't always equal the impact. You have to be careful what you're putting your time into doing. I mean, sometimes we sit here and think, is daily dose reaching enough people? So one of the things we'd like you to do at the end of this is to make a comment. Drop a comment and let us know what you think. Are we going in the right direction? Or what would you like us to, well, can we say comment on in a comment?
Sure. Talk about.
Talk about,
I think is the easier way to say that.
Is there an issue you'd like us to connect to? Put it that way. We were talking about connection. So how does this make sense to anyone? I mean, this made sense to me. These 4 rules that the author came out with are very interesting. And we actually worked through these when I was in rehab. No, what are you going to do? What are you striving towards? And there's 4 things to think about. And it's for jobs too. It's not just for,
Well, it's for any facet of
or
your life.
self-improvement. You want to
Yeah.
do a self-improvement? Here's things. 4 things to think about. Number 1 was, will doing this help you? What's the point of doing something? Are you going to get something out of it? I mean, that's the point.
That's pretty basic, yep.
The second thing is, will doing this help someone else?
It's true. Sometimes we do. Like, I would argue that you didn't start Daily Dose. You didn't agree to start Daily Dose because it helped you. You agreed to start Daily Dose because you knew that it would help me because I wanted to create more content. And you weren't opposed to it, but you would never have made this suggestion.
No,
this is not your comfort zone.
I have got a lot out of this.
Yeah.
This is not my comfort zone at all. So you may have noticed some of the avid professional watchers. I think that. So it sounds a little bit noble and, why do you think I have to be helping someone else? But everything we do should. What's the point? You have a job. You might think you've got a small cog in a big wheel, but that small cog still has to move. Can you see what the point of you doing it? And it makes you less likely to think, why am I doing this?
Or
again,
what's my point?
Slave to the tyranny of urgency. If you ask to do something quickly, you have to think, all right, I've got to really work hard for the next 27 hours straight to do this. Why? If you can see that, you're more connected to what you're doing.
Okay, so will this help me? Will this help someone else?
Number 3, will it bring you joy?
I love this point. So she says sometimes there is no extrinsic value in doing something. The intrinsic value is that it just brings you joy. And that cannot be undervalued. It can't be your only motivation because joy doesn't pay bills. But does it bring you joy is an enormous and valid reason to say yes to something.
Yeah. And again, that gives you purpose, that gives you motivation to keep going. And in rehab, that kept me going. It's terribly hard. It's a lot of hard work, and I kept getting told, well, it's not supposed to be easy. But if you're successful, it does bring you great joy. And the last one, which I think is it's an interesting caveat. You're sitting there, you're thinking, all right, I'm sitting in this office. I've agreed to do something, but here I go. And you can think about if you're in a leadership position, especially, or if you're self-employed, think, all right, I want to do this. Can someone else do it better? Can I connect to someone to suggest this to them to make it go better? And that way, I think the other 3 things, will it help? Will it help someone else? Will it bring you or someone else joy? They all fall into place around there.
Yeah, the point of this is just because someone asks you to do it doesn't mean that A, you have to do it, or B, you're the best person to do it. So you need to evaluate that. I get asked to do things all the time. And when I first started at the Arts Partnership, I said yes to everything because I felt like I had to. I felt like, well, someone asked me. They must need my specific skill set. No, they were just asking. There are definitely times where I have to be the person who says yes, but there are plenty of times where I can pass that on to a team member, or I can say no for the organization, or we're not the best place to do it, and I'm happy to connect them to who is, because it's not about serving your ego. Sometimes being asked feels good, and so you say yes to that. That doesn't make sense if it doesn't serve the purpose, serve you, or bring you joy.
Yeah.
So,
and there is, you brought that up. This is interesting because near the end of the chapter, she broke it down, and here's some things to think about. You were asked to do something. Ask for more information. One, you're obviously thinking about it. How will you do your work? What connection are you going to do? Can you talk to other people? I want to do this down the line. Can I talk to someone? You can connect to someone on Zoom. You can share ideas. You can get a better idea of what you're doing. And that's not just for business. That's if, connecting to other people for anything.
well, think about you have a former student who you took to an AA meeting or two about a year ago, and then a little bit more than a year ago, and then this student disappeared.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, that student showed up again last week in a text message. And so, that is, he's reaching out for more information.
It does help. So, join meetings, get to see the bigger picture of what you're doing. If you're struggling with doing it, it'll give you motivation because you then will become connected to it. And I'm not just talking about work. This is anything.
Yep.
And she would, the quote Dana talked to about, read this morning, was about sight lines. I've never heard of the term sight line before in a business book, but the more I read it, I think it means literally getting the big picture.
Well, from this to this.
Yeah. What is the purpose? For me, and when I was in Prairie St. John, my sight line was, when I finally worked out I needed help, is all right, how do I do it? What do I do?
Yeah, you went from so limited and slowly broadened the way you thought about things.
That's what you have to do. And that's why I think this connection thing is really good to think about in terms of addiction, or if you know someone who's suffering from an addiction, how can you connect to them to help them and you?
Yep.
And again, we're not expert. I'm not a trained guidance counsellor. So again, you could listen to this and go, all right, now they've given me an idea. Who can I find who's better at it, or more qualified? Who can I go to see next?
Yep.
Or you could connect to us, and then we can suggest what you could do next.
Yeah. Well done, Dr. Mary. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You made this chapter
I actually
a little
came
bit
right
clearer.
down to the last bit I was going to say. Does your work connect with the problem you're trying to solve? There you go. Think about it. Take a step back, take a breath, and think about everything that you're trying to accomplish for you, for someone else.
Yeah. So the work we're trying to accomplish with Daily Dose is to talk about this stuff, to try to make sure that other people who are isolated and feeling singular and alone in this are no longer feeling isolated, singular, and alone. So our connection is based on that. Absolutely. Yeah. So it would be great if you would comment anything about the 15 minutes you just sat through, thoughts you have, questions you have. We are really trying to grow this audience, and that's one good way to do it. Facebook likes to see comments. It means people are watching. So if you would do that for us today, we would really appreciate it. And we'll be back tomorrow at 8:30. Have a great day.
See you tomorrow.
Bye-bye.